Right, we'll go ahead and call to order the December 7th, 2022 Gifford Parks Commission meeting. Start with roll call. Ben Coronado, Parks Commission Chair. Got Will Appleton. Let me just go around and introduce yourselves.
Jennifer Harrow, Parks Manager.
Les Gallen. Stace Gordon.
Yeah, I believe we have Stephanie Lyle via Zoom. Let her introduce herself when she.
Hi, Ben. I'm here. I just have a terrible cough, so I can't
Oh.
really talk much, but I'm here.
You can tell through there you do not feel well. Can't see you, but you can hear it. I hope you feel better. Thank you for joining us. And we also have Josh Decker, City Clerk.
Yep.
So go ahead and move to item number 2, approval of the minutes from the November 2nd, 2022 Parks Commission meeting. Go ahead and move to approve the minutes as written. There's a second. Second. And all in favor? Aye. Minutes approved as written. Josh, we don't have to, or Jennifer, maybe you can answer, approve the study session minutes at all, since it was a study session, right?
No, those will go to council for approval, and that's good enough.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any public comments submitted?
No comments submitted to me, and I don't have anybody online to comment.
Perfect. Moving on to discussion items. Introduction of Parks Manager Jennifer Harrow. She comes from us from Kitsap County, 1 month in today.
Exactly today, yeah.
Awesome. You want to take a minute, introduce yourself to the Parks Commission and anybody who might be listening?
Sure. Met most of you individually, but yeah, I'm a Washington native and I have worked for some form, either a county or a city government for the last 29 years. Graduated from Western with the environmental studies degree in Bellingham. And yeah, this is my 3rd city I worked for. I've been a planner for 14 of my years, but I also have public works, ecology type, water quality stuff in the background. So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you.
So good, yeah.
Be a great asset to the city, especially working in the Parks Department. So very happy to have you join us. Yeah, so I mean, we're first meeting in person, so pretty happy to have you for this one. Some of us, I mean, Les and Stace been here for what, 9 months, a year now?
Not quite that much, I don't think.
No?
9 months.
Yeah, 9
Yeah,
months.
maybe so, yeah.
Okay, and then Will, you're
Over a year.
a little over a year.
Two.
Yeah, I think you came on the same time as Stephanie then?
Yeah, right about then.
Okay, so yeah, they're,
Great.
yeah, and then Luis has been on 3-4 years, I think, and I'm pushing 7, so. Yeah, so I've been kicking around for a while.
All right.
Apparently nothing but time on my hands. Yeah, so kind of get directive from council, and we adopted the work plan at our last study session with council. So hopefully work off that for the time being, and anything that might come from board, from staff and or council. So looking forward to working with you on those. Item B, naming of the conservation properties. I know there's a little introduction here. The city acquired 3 new properties just recently in the last year or so. And we're looking at, they're not formally parks yet, but they are city properties. So the city was potentially looking at naming those parcels. So maybe you could give us a little more background on that.
Yeah. Josh, you want to take that or?
Well, sure. Yeah, so we talked to council a little bit about this at our joint meeting. It's on the works plan for the Parks Commission. And I think what council is looking to get is a kind of a name for all 3 properties combined as kind of one complex. We have a policy for how we name parks, and I think we're going to follow that policy for this, even though it's not technically a park yet. We go out for public comment, just kind of let the public know what the properties are, how we got them, give some background on it, and then take input from the public on name ideas. And then those come back to the Parks Commission to review and make a recommendation to council, and then council will do the approval of it. So I think where we're at is Jennifer and some other staff will get together and come up with some kind of an announcement to the public to let them know we're ready to do this and put it out there and see what kind of response we get.
And one complicating factor is the purchase and sale agreement with Mr. Shaw. Had a condition in there about an agreement for naming. So I'm not sure how that's not gonna work out, but Jeff Langhelm and I are meeting with him and his attorney and our attorney to talk about that. So, but that's what, 4 of the properties out of a lot, so it's it's not the entire thing, but we'll figure something out.
Is that Shaw in any relation to Shaw Park?
I understand that it is,
Ah,
but I've been told that, I haven't meant that there is a shop, yes.
Was that for the property that actually was sold? So that transaction has gone through and they failed to act on that
Well,
piece. Correct, if I heard counsel correctly during that study session,
they failed to act on that piece.
they
about
failed
the
to
name.
act on the actual naming.
Well,
They were
the way
revisiting
that
that.
there was supposed to be some sort of kind of agreement at closing, and it mentioned the city as well, so, yeah, I'm not
Okay.
sure the status of that, we are getting legal help on that. We will keep you posted.
Seems like it shouldn't do, I mean, just move forward with the process and
right,
see what comes out of that.
that's what I would
Yeah.
gather. So we look forward to seeing that, what, like February or March then, or is it dependent on final closing of that property?
Oh,
They're all closed.
Okay,
Yeah, we do officially own them all now.
okay, awesome.
So I think it's just kind of a timing thing. It'll involve probably several of us to get it going. Laura will be involved getting the word out to people that we're starting this process. So we'll just kind of depend on staff workload. But I don't think I think we should be able to come back to you by February. I would think would be a reasonable guess.
So is there any plan when we go out to the public for comment on this to give any kind of context or historical information on the properties, or just to, I mean, to maybe guide or at least
Yeah,
provide them some information about what it is they're attempting to name and maybe history behind it?
yeah, that'll be part of it. And then another part of it is the policy for naming actually kind of gives some criteria for how names should be selected. Like there's emphasis on cultural or historical elements to the parks. When we go out, that'll be part of what we present. So we'll want to give, a good description of what the properties are, how they were acquired, what the goal of them is. Talk about what the North Creek habitat that's there. I think we'll want to make sure we put together a good package that puts that out pretty clearly.
Would the commission have a chance to review that before it goes out, or just to provide any comment on it, or is that?
Yeah, we could probably do that. I think we could bring it back in January.
Be awesome, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
That could kind of give us a timeline to shoot for.
Okay. Great, any other comments? And Stephanie, feel free to pipe in or raise a hand, whatever you need to do, okay? I know you're there, but we're gonna go ahead and move on to item C, the Ansitch Waterfront Park paver replacement. So I know at the water park, or at the platform there's the pavers with different fishing boat vessel names on there. So it appears like there's a need for either replacement of broken ones, or I don't know, what's the story behind this one? I don't have much background on this one.
So my understanding is that, and I'm just gonna show you the photo, and then, I'm out of practice on Zoom, so here we go. So the concrete pavers are currently existing, the Commercial Fishermen's Club has approached Jeff Langhelm and would like to donate to the city the money to replace those with granite pavers like that. They think they would last longer and be, more durable, same thing, and a little brighter.
Mhm. I kind of noticed that some kind of wearing down and becoming
Yeah,
unrecognizable.
yeah. So that's basically
These
what,
look substantially larger than the existing. Right, aren't the existing ones like 4x6 or something, or am I imagining that?
No,
I remember.
no, they're,
Are they large
Some of
panels?
that size, yeah.
Okay,
They-
my bad,
yeah, the ones that are proposed are the same size.
okay. Yeah, those look nice. Yeah, and they're gonna front all of that, they're gonna pay for all of the replacement? Wow. Right?
yeah,
Well, yeah, and the Fisherman's Club talked to us at the museum about it. And, we're all in favor of it because it's one of the only places where the fishing boats and their skippers or their captains are recognized and memorialized. So this is also a non-skid surface. So, and it's really nicely done. We work with the same company to do our paving stones and stuff. So I think it's a really generous offer, and it certainly has a lot more longevity than the sandblasted concrete.
Yeah, that was gonna be my only other comment I know granite can be slippery, the gloss finish on granite, but if you say it's a non-slippery surface.
Yeah, this is a special surface that is designed to, not be slippery, especially when it's wet. So, yeah, they discussed that at great length as well. So I think Randy would be more than happy to bring this down and let you guys see it, and see it even in situ, because he had the sample made. So I think it's a great idea. I mean, I think it's a nice way to memorialize, for a much longer period of time.
So, are all the pavers out there right now? Previous, vessels were fishermen related,
Yes.
so all of them are there any opportunities in doing this where folks? Or is it exclusively for that, I guess, so if anyone in the community wanted to put a paver out there and buy a paver and put one out there and support, we don't really want to open that up. Is this just exclusively for the vessels that have been in the harbor and the ship crew and captains?
That's my understanding. I think Jeff would have more background, but I mean, from what I can see and what I understand of the project, it's all about the fishing fleet and the families that ran those boats.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know if there's been any like formal agreement or anything like that, but I think it was like in whole, like a piece to memorialize the fishing vessels and families. and
okay,
stuff
so
like
it's
that.
not a community opportunity that
Right,
if you've just been a resident of whatever Big Harbor, you want to do this, okay,
Uncle Joe or something.
right, yeah.
oh yeah, I think that's great, I think,
Yeah, no, that's,
yeah. Cause I had noticed that last time I was down there, how someone kind of wearing down and
Mhm.
being unrecognizable. Just from the heavy traction and stuff like down there. Do they salt down there in the park and stuff like that? Would that have any
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
effect to the finish on that? If they did that?
Need to check.
I think they do treat the sidewalk and the walking area there with something, I don't know if it's salt, but they use something to, when it's icy and slippery there.
That would be my only, my
But
other
just-
one, I guess.
Yeah, just from a practical standpoint, I think talking with Jeff, he thinks that these pavers are probably more durable and long lasting than what's currently there. So just from not from an aesthetic standpoint, but just from a practical standpoint.
Recognize Louise Teeman joined us as well. Hi, Louise.
Hello, and I'm sorry I'm late. Traffic was terrible. Meetings ran long.
Yes, I get it. Stephanie, you said you have these types of tiles or pavers, or you use
Oh.
the same company?
Yeah, we work with the same company to do the engraved bricks in front of the museum. And they're also gonna do the granite for the base of the Narrows Bridge light pole. So we worked with them a lot. They're a really good company.
Are they local here at Harbor or just
They're in
local to the
Tacoma.
town? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need any sort of formal recommendation, but it sounds like the Parks Commission is definitely in favor of this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah,
No doubt.
Thanks.
okay,
I think it's especially good because the Fisherman's Club is behind it. And they know these boats and these skippers and these families better than anybody. So it's a really nice way to just memorialize the fleet that's been such a big part of Gig Harbor's history.
I think it's a really nice way to kind of capture that history, because so much of that is just, word of mouth within the families and to have that, somewhere on this public displays, I think is a great opportunity.
The only thing I would recommend adding to it is maybe adding one paver that explains that those are boat names and skipper names, because a lot of people from out of town won't really know that, especially if you have a boat called like the Kathy H, and then it's, a couple other names, you're like, well, what's that? So if it's something that has something that is like a decoder ring, so to speak, that says this is the boat name and this is the families that fished them, or the skipper names, then not just locals, but visitors would have a better sense of what is actually being presented there.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
A tile or a sign of some sort.
Yeah, it'd be pretty easy to do.
So when we move forward with this, it would be an agreement before council to accept the donation or to contract with the Fisherman's Club to have this work done. So we probably bring back an agreement to go over with you that kind of explains, would have those kind of details in it on what we would expect to have there, what would be replaced, something along those lines.
Any idea what one of those tiles costs?
I am not sure, but I think they had gotten a quote for 38, somewhere between 38 and 40,000.
Okay, yeah, sizable, okay. All right, any other conversation on that? Move on to item D, the consumption of alcohol within the leased park facilities.
Yes,
Oh,
so.
yeah, I'd kick that right over to you.
So we were approached by the boat shop. When they had the launching of one of their craft, they had to apply for a special, what's it called, Josh? A special event permit.
Yeah, special occasion liquor license.
So they had a special occasion liquor license, which the state liquor and cannabis board sends to the city. And they weren't able to approve it because liquor is not allowed on parks properties. So we are looking at allowing liquor, alcohol in leased properties. So the boathouse, the net shed, we understand, does have events with alcohol. I'm not sure how often, but to allow that within buildings and that have leases, and as long as they follow liquor and cannabis board rules and permit requirements. So they were mentioning they do fundraisers, helps people bid higher if you have some wine or something. So we've been kind of working back and forth with our attorney on some possible code changes, but wanted to see what you all thought about that before it goes through the whole process. So,
Remember a few years ago, there being an issue with the neighboring parcel to Scansy Park with them having events there and then bringing alcohol into the parks and
Mhm.
how that became problematic.
yes.
I know this would be maybe a more contained environment. But there's also, like, okay, then the farmer's market, would they want to do like wine tastings at the farmer's market? So it kind of opens up that, that slippery slope of, okay, how far would it go or may it go? And, what's is fair to everybody.
I mean, there's the summer concert series. I'm making a wild presumption that at least one or two people attending that have alcohol,
Yeah,
with them. And, all 8,000 people would pack into that park, and so, it's sort of hard to
Well,
say.
we would still not want that to happen like it's park. The parks as a whole,
Right.
but inside of buildings or like at the boathouse, because they are just put on an online rental system together, so like someone can have a engagement party or a baby shower or something there. But our code currently doesn't allow alcohol to be served at those times.
So, and as far as the totality of our leased parcels, that's the Eden Boatyard, that's the Harbor Wild Watch Building and the Skinsy House. I mean,
In that shed.
the net shed. What am I?
There are a couple of private residences,
Right,
which
so-
the letter of the law may not allow them to have alcohol in their, simply called out in their lease that it's allowed, but I mean, that hasn't proven to be an issue that's been brought forward to us, but if we were cleaning up the code, we would clean up that as well. But there are- Yeah, Wilkinson Farm and then the Sound View House, right?
In the forest there,
Yeah,
next to the forest.
next to the forest.
And then what about, I mean, so it has to be within a building to contain building, right? Like, so is the part of the Wilkinson, like where they do the garden, is that like a leased part of the property? Do they lease that?
It
from us?
is, I don't think our intention was to allow it outside of buildings necessarily. We're specifically thinking about the boat shop house. That shed.
Yeah.
Are the ones that have been known to serve alcohol and would like to do so legally.
I would say in another life, I was involved in, the state was involved in allowing alcohol for public events. So I'm highly
Still are.
supportive of this sort of thing. You write your own parameters, you write your own rules, you get licensing. When you buy the liquor, quite often you have to be highly involved in that licensing and so forth. It's just a great opportunity for people who use these venues to raise money. And alcohol is a major contributor. And so I'm highly supportive. We just have to write the right parameters and restrictions to make it work right.
Like the boat shed house is already limited to 30 people max in their lease and in code. And then we were talking, was it you, Josh, about, we don't want to encourage like a bunch of people hanging out in the boat shop where all the tools are and stuff, like having a beer after work and stuff like that. That could be a liability issue, but as far as like being able to rent the facility or the boat house, and then the net shed, to be able to have an event within the parameters of liquor control board and the leases.
That's probably an important part of that cleanup language, right? I'm supportive indoors in the buildings, according to the lease, for an event with a permit, right? All the things. And I agree, we'll also get more rentals for weddings and things like that if alcohol can be served in addition to the fundraisers. So we're not going to change the law to have open containers outside, right? That's not going to happen. So
No. There
within
is a
those-
question about like the semi-private porch area, like the boathouse.
Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out kind of the legal definitions of some of those things, because like the porch of the brick house is designated as a public space. And like the dock at the boat shop is a public space. And per our code, which I think may be tied to pretty firmly to state law, we can't have open container in a public space. So as long as those are considered public spaces, I don't think there's any way we could allow alcohol on those. We're still kind of flushing out how that works exactly. And I don't think our intention would be to allow alcohol there, but a lot of, I think what we're trying to accomplish here is trying to make this change so that it's uniformly applicable across all of our leases. So we don't have to go and renegotiate every lease we have with each property to say, you can allow alcohol here with this permit in this situation. we're trying to find kind of a way to blanket change the municipal code so that it will allow it in some situations, but will still prohibit it where we need it to be prohibited. So that's what we're looking at right now. The way our code's written currently, any park that's identified in the pros plan, alcohol is not allowed at all, period. That's how it is, kind of cut and dry right now. And I think we've realized that's not really gonna work for everyone. It's not sustainable, especially with our residential properties. So
Well,
we're gonna,
plus, you also have leases with nonprofit organizations that are leasing structures. They're not leasing the park, right? So you have the park, but there's a building within that park.
Yeah.
And there's specific dimensions of that building that are leased by a nonprofit. So I think it's pretty easy to use that as the defining parameter for where alcohol is allowed and where it's not. So, but I do agree that having a blanket statement that alcohol is not permitted in any park, including the buildings that are leased by nonprofits, that's not going to work, obviously. So I am very much in support. I don't want to say that I'm gung ho, let's go have tons of alcohol everywhere, but certainly as a person who runs a nonprofit, you do understand the need for having some open parameters so that you can hold the kinds of events that draw people in and introduce them to your space and make them feel happy and welcome. Then that's one of the ways to do it.
I've had some mighty fine cocktails from Heritage Distilling in your museum.
Yeah, thank you. We do our best for you. Yeah. Although we're not in a park, so there you go. We're just surrounded by parks.
I think the other thing that we'll try to do when we make these code changes is make sure that any alcohol use that's going to be allowed for our commercial leases, not our residential ones, but we want to make sure that there's a catch in there that they have to have approval from the Liquor Control Board, because there's some situations where they may not necessarily need to do that. And I think we want to make sure that they always have that oversight. So we're gonna have to research that more and make sure that we have at least that in place so that the Liquor Control Board is going to be the enforcement authority there.
There is a certain type of permit, and the Liquor Control Board has about 40 different ones, but there
Yeah.
is a certain type that nonprofits can get that is, allows you to serve alcohol within your building. And you don't have to go get a new permit every single time. So you could roll that into the lease agreement with the various nonprofits that they have that particular permit. And then any rentals get a special banquet permit or something. That's what we do.
Yeah.
They have to get the special permit in addition to the permit that we have, since not one of our staff members is serving the alcohol. So, and there's some restrictions in terms of whether you sell it or whether you pour it, and your the people that are pouring having certification and that sort of thing. So it's not hard. You just have to know the process.
Is there any difference between hard alcohol and beer and wine, or is that kind of all the same?
It doesn't seem to be.
For event permits, I don't think there is. For like if you were going to get a license, a permanent license to distribute or sell, then I think there are differences. But if it's just for a daily or special occasion event, then I don't think there is.
I do like that idea. So you had mentioned there'd be like the leaseholder be required to get a permit as part of their lease agreement, and then whatever, there'd be a wedding or a wedding or some sort of event have to get a special event permit as well, and that's through the Liquor Control Board, or is that through the city then?
It's
Uh,
it's through liquor control.
Liquor control.
Yeah, Liquor Control Board. Yeah.
Okay.
They're
So-
basically two different levels of those. There's the special occasion license, which requires approval from the city, and that's if you're, you're actually selling alcohol at your event, or like the sip and stroll where people actually need to pay. For those kinds of events, then you need a special occasion permit, which the city approves. There's also a banquet permit, which is more for individual groups. So like if you're having a wedding or a baby shower in the brick house or something, and you want to have alcohol, you could get that banquet license, which the city would not be required to approve. So there's two different levels, both are covered by the Liquor Control Board, and I think both would be fine, just depending on the type of event.
Cool. And then, like, short-term mortgage couldn't be any way misconstrued as a lease of some sort, could it? I know it's not within a building or anything like that, but I'm just thinking for like the dock, like.
I think the code accepts the dock, people on boats on the dock.
Okay,
Yeah, at least Jerry said.
yeah, that's what I figure. I figure people are already drinking down there on their boats, but like on the dock itself, I'm like, they're probably not allowed to do that.
They're not.
Okay, yeah,
I'm sure that never happens.
Never.
right.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm in favor of this. I mean, I think it's a great thing to do with our, our nonprofits are so key to our community and, provide so much benefit. I think it'd be a great way to help them, especially, coming out of COVID and, if they are doing events and stuff like that, and it'd be a great way to raise funds. Yeah, it looks like I see a lot of head nodding in this room. Stephanie and Louise both agree, yeah, okay,
Yes.
Get a kind of a draft, we'll get it
cool, yeah, that's great.
in front of you.
Anything else to add on that? Looks like we're gonna go ahead and move forward, with staff reports then is next. With Parks Manager Jennifer Harlow.
Okay, just have a few things. So the property, like ungroundbreaking for the Howe property, which was phase 3 of the conservation properties. The one on the east side of Harborview, north of Donkey Creek Park. We are doing a little ceremony on the 14th at 10 a.m. January 14th, apologies, not December. So you are all invited. There will be more formal invitation later. We're communicating with a representative of that family, the Gig Harbor Conservation Fund folks are gonna be there. They donated some money for us for that. Mark your calendars, and we're trying to coordinate it with the construction. It's hopefully gonna be wrapped up on Burnham Harborview at that time. So we're also working on, we've got the contract signed for HBB Landscape Architects for Crescent Creek Park master planning process. I met with 12 interested neighbors and members of the Crescent Creek Alliance this week. But we're working on scheduling that kickoff meeting with consultant and tour, so get going on that. I've also been asked to create some code for no jumping off of piers and docks that the city owns. So I'll be working with the attorney and the police chief on that. And then I got a little lesson in electricity and how it can not just be a hazard for hitting the bottom, but also electrical shocks in the water, depending on boat.
Could I just a question on that one, the no jumping off dock. So during the summer, I often will swim and I dive in off the dock to start the swim. And go across the harbor and come back. So I would ask that, what are you trying to solve? What problem are you trying to fix with that? And then is that going to take a swimmer who simply dives in and swims and comes back, prevent them, and they're gonna have to slip into the water as opposed to dive?
Even
Or walk through the mud.
Divers in the water once a month in the winter.
I missed, where are we jumping off? What
What
dock was it?
The pretty rich.
The narrows
Yeah.
bridge.
Yeah.
So I use the boathouse dock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one that I'll enter the water. So it's at water level.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, there's the kayak dock as well. I mean, there's.
So there's concern about, we should have a regulation about diving. or
Jeff had told me that Ansage was a problem.
So this is undoubtedly about Gig Harbor Canoe and Kayak Race Team. I can bet, because I've had 2 kids that have been jumping off those docks from the day they started on the team. So I imagine they were jumping off the dock at Jersich before. Now they're jumping off the dock at Ansage. So is it really a problem? What's really the problem?
Jeff has asked me to look into that, but yeah, he thought it was, a safety concern. I think he was talking a lot about the higher ones, the fixed ones,
Maybe it's
but
the
it might
working,
also be the,
That's
it might be the working dock at Ansich, which is much higher, right?
Yeah.
At high tide, you're still 10, 15 feet off the water.
Therefore, much more fun.
Right.
Is there any pilings left down around any of those docks? I guess that'd be my big safety concern. Someone jumping into a submerged piling.
Yeah, my ask would be just consider the audience and recognize there are a lot of people who are very responsible and entering the water for a legitimate purpose and at the water level.
Mhm.
And I would hate to discourage that use of our water.
And there is already signage posted
there
on
is
some of the
signage,
docks.
but there's no
Policy.
law behind it.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, so if the police wanted to be like, hey, there's not really
man,
not that he's
I
gonna.
feel like if a police officer went and talked to most kids and be like, yeah, you can't jump a dock, hopefully most of them would oblige, but, without having to go much further, but.
The teen
Yeah.
kids did, they're periodically, some officer would say, gosh, you guys aren't supposed to be jumping off there, and they would stop, right? They're at least for a few days, right? And it's not all the time. It is in the
look like
summer.
that.
It is at high tide, I never saw them being irresponsible about any of that.
Okay. Well, yeah. So just gonna give you-
Okay. If I think we've given an opportunity to give an opinion on that, I think.
Given the increase in crime across North America, that's hardly seems like. our biggest concern.
All right.
Just put up,
All those boats are rafted up out there on Sunday afternoon. That's when you have to worry about them jumping off their boats and so forth. And they've
Yeah.
been drinking for 2 days. so.
Yeah.
just put up a jellyfish warning sign.
There you
Not
go.
like that.
That won't stop the Gig Harbor kids, the canoe and kayak kids. They're dealing with those jellyfish all the time, and they know that they're not a problem.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't mess with one of them.
And then last, we're getting close to being able to submit for permits for phase 1B of the sports complex, which is
Woohoo!
ball courts, bocce, pavilion, pavilion, concession stand restrooms, etc. So, and I don't think that the YMCA is too far behind for their fields.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what we were told.
They had their, did I have that in my notes? They had their open house or they had their meeting?
I don't know when I went.
Did you?
There was an open house right here.
Yep.
And a few people showed up,
Did they give an update on their funding and how that was going for them?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
Is again, more sort of individuals could ask questions and they had storyboards up and architectural drawings and things.
So was that the city who presented that or was that the Y that presented that? Or was it a
This
joint?
city's consultant did most of it, but there was a gentleman from the Y there who I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but
Yeah, and that was their.
Was there a large group of Heron's Key people there?
Not that I was aware of. I was gonna bring it up somehow, might be the right time. I did get cornered by one woman. And she had, we talked for 15 minutes or so. She had a valid concern, I think, which was, and probably I'm not the person to bring this up. She's an avid pickleball player. And while there's pickleball courts planned for that, she was challenging the wisdom of the bocce ball court. Could that space be pickleball courts, given that, as we pointed out, some of these plans are 20 years old and trends have changed, I mean, more kids play soccer. I incidentally heard from a guy who does a lot with the local soccer groups and there aren't enough fields for them and they want more fields. But the truth is pickleball and soccer is sort of where, the volume is these days in terms of interest. And bocce ball is probably a pretty low demand item. And I think her frustration is we're gonna spend this money on a bocce ball court. She's gonna drive by it every day on her way to pickleball and there won't be a soul on it. And wow, it still would be space for just maybe a couple more courts. It's not gonna be space for 30 or something.
Right, it's a much smaller footprint than the 6.
Yeah,
pickleball courts
it might
that we
just
did.
be one more, or two more pickleball courts.
Yeah, if that.
I guess my question is, I think she had a valid point in terms of feedback from the community and where the demand is, and is it too late to pivot? You know, without delaying this whole thing another couple of years. You've got somebody putting in the materials and everything into pickleball courts, so there's contractor doing that. And I just don't have a sense what prompted the bocce ball courts, where that interest was, that all occurred.
Yeah,
Well, I just want
Honestly, I
to
don't-
raise that, and I do think, you know, she asked about the question.
Yeah, I think from what I remember is that it was driven from the senior community. It was an ask of that, but forgive me if I'm wrong, and I think that's where that kind of derived from, was from the senior community, was asking that, so. But, I mean, being a larger park, you would hope it would be more inclusive and have, you know, more amenities, but I feel you on the driving past and looking at an empty facility that's how I kind of feel about parts of Crescent Creek Park, you know, you drive by and it's like, I feel like that Little League field hasn't been used for years. Like, I'm glad the geese like it.
Right. Yeah, that's the soccer guys eyeing that, and, you know, raise that.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I think you got a permanent challenge, which is as needs shift, how do you adapt? And
Yeah,
you can't adapt every year and redesign every park, you know, that's not practical, but.
that's hard with I mean, as far as like government moves, you know, it's just slower, and so you're trying to keep up with the current trends as slow as
and
government
find
moves.
money for.
Yeah.
Like it's years
Yeah.
processed.
And
Something to,
the bocce ball courts, those are gonna be like, semi-pervious, right? It's like,
I think it's
is it crushed
Made on,
oyster
like,
shell or something?
Oyster shell, yeah.
The crushed oyster shell? Yeah, so I think that was kind of too, is that it would offset, you know, the pervious surface or the runoff impervious of the, yeah. But there would be a huge event along there, so. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean,
Interesting
that's-
comments though,
Yeah.
appreciate the feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it back this way.
Yeah, I, you know, I feel our obligation is to
Yeah.
listen when that happens.
Absolutely, thank you.
and I apologize, I don't know a ton about the whole formulation, I just know
Sure.
that's been going on for years, like you said. So.
Yes.
I was intrigued by the architectural drawings of a picnic table. I thought that was interesting.
Oh, yeah.
And we just signed an agreement for $500,000 grant with the state for that as well, so
Oh, there too, minute.
rolling, yep.
Excellent.
And that's all I had for my update.
Any other questions? Again? Any other? No, okay. So the groundbreaking, do you think there would be an opportunity to use that as part of, like an announcement for the naming stuff, to kind of wrap that into there?
That's a good question.
I feel like that might be used as a good opportunity if you have the crowd and the audience already there, so just announcing it maybe.
Yeah, that would seem like the right place, yeah.
It was about 5 weeks, a little more. To get that, yeah.
Also, I know a couple months ago, I don't remember how long ago, they were able to tour some of those properties. Is that, I mean, is it open to the public now?
So the way I understand it, no,
Okay,
because, I don't know, Josh, you might know a little bit more about this, but it needs to have like a land use process and kind of be accepted. And we didn't want to encourage people to walk back there.
Yeah, I think it's probably kind of similar to like the path down to the ferry dock, where it's not part of our park system, but it is public property. So it's not like you're restricted from going in there, but it's not part of our recreation property inventory. So we don't have trails that are designated as trails or any kind of access points to any of those properties yet. That's how I understand it to be.
alright. Cause yeah, I mean, if we're gonna go in the naming process, I would like to get a better idea of what's back there. I mean, there's a North Creek and it's all second growth, right? Is it second growth? Has that all been mowed down at some point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is a little second growth, but it's really beautiful back there, and there is
describe?
There is, yeah, kind of a rough trail that's there, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think opening it up to the public at this
Right.
point is really the right thing to do until it's more defined and better understood what its purpose is for.
Mhm.
Plus the bridge, there's a bridge that hasn't really been inspected that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I walked, there's a little bridge across the creek, yeah, I walked back there with, I walked back there with one of the Benson, a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it seems pretty sturdy, but it's like kind of just plywood surface, and so probably slippery and
Mm.
all of that, but it is really pretty and hardly any invasive plants and stuff on that one. Whereas the Howe property, ceremony school on the other side of the street does have a lot of like Scotch broom.
I do think though, it would be important to message out to the community that the city has made the acquisition. Get the community excited about it, about what it might become, and just so that folks recognize that those properties, that area is in fact city property and is going to evolve into something. I think that messaging, if it hasn't been done, would be really important, just to, build a little bit of excitement around it.
And it will provide a connection to the Cushman Trail
Yeah.
eventually. Probably.
Yeah, I do think with messaging, I've had people ask me if the trails there were open, and I've discouraged people from going out there, but I think you do have to cut, I mean, people are assuming that they can walk through there because they heard about it, and it's like, oh, it's city property now, it's gonna be a park, so we should be able to get to it from Cushman Trail, and I'm like, well, there's no designated trails yet, but I think whatever that message is, it has to be sort of, I mean, it has to be very clear about whether there's public access right now or not.
Good point.
Yeah. That's good.
Anything else? Oh, large down tree on the trails in Wilkinson. Did you hear about that? See about that in the holly forest?
Mm-mm.
Okay, there's a large down tree in the Wilkinson holly forest,
Okay.
blocking one of the trails. Taking it down trees.
Is it a holly tree?
No, it's a maple.
Also, I just remembered this when I was thinking about it, but the city has required the C-Click Fix app, and it hasn't been rolled out publicly yet, but that's in the future. I think we're practicing using it internally. I was like, oh, I should put that on C-Click Fix.
It's up and live on the website right now. We haven't announced it. But it
Okay.
is there for people to use, and we're just kind of, it's a soft opening at this point. So at some point we'll have fanfare
We're
and
not
get the word out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parks, though, right?
Uh,
But
I don't know. I think it has very limited park use at this point.
yeah. But if you have like a pothole or tree down across the road or something, you definitely do that. It goes straight to the people that would take care of it.
I think that'd be a really good resource once that's
Yeah.
up and running.
And you can put it on your phone, and then you can take a picture of it, and then it can know your location, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't think we have a ton of parks available like that, but. So you saw that or somebody
Yes.
reported it to you?
No, I walked through there. It's very large.
Okay. That will tell.
Any other commissioners online wanna have any questions for Jennifer? Any other parks?
I have a general question that's a little bit of enlightened self-interest, but since I live behind the forest here at City Hall, the coyote pack there has gotten really big. There's at least 9 individuals in the pack. They are predating animals around in the neighborhood. They're pretty intimidating, right? That's a lot. What's our policy about that? I'm not asking for anyone to go in and exterminate them all, but a couple of people here in Spinnaker Ridge have asked me about what happens with animals like that in the parks.
Yeah, so I live down at the lower end of Grandview Forest, so I know kind of the same, we have the same situation where they kind of run back and forth through our neighborhood at times. And I've talked to Chief Busey about it, and essentially the city can't do anything with them. We can contact Department of Agriculture, I think is his contact, and let them know, and they may do something if they think it's enough of an issue. My understanding is that it really hasn't risen to a level that they want to address anything at yet at this
Okay.
point. But if you want to reach out to Chief Busey, he probably would appreciate hearing from other people that have noticed things going on too.
Boy, they killed something last night and it was brutal and scary. And it went
Yeah.
on and on and on, right? So it's, it is like, we don't let our animals out anymore.
No.
Because they're hopping the fence and running through our side yard to get into our cul-de-sac, right? It makes a difference. And I don't think it'd be harder to walk there inside that forest, especially at dawn or dusk.
On that note, I heard they finished another one of their art pieces in that park.
Oh, really? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I think there's another
There's
park
two new ones in there.
There two new ones?
Gotta find it.
Yeah,
Whereabouts?
Ow.
I don't know. I didn't.
You gotta find it. There's-
You gotta-
That's
you
part of the
find
fun,
it.
right?
Great. Me and the coyotes will go look. for it.
Exactly, watch out for the coyotes.
Right near
Good.
Coyote's den is right at the foot.
Yeah, you can see
Yeah.
the squirrel is on Stanage Avenue on the outside of the park, so you can see that
Hmm.
walking on the street.
Okay.
I haven't found the owl yet, though. It's somewhere in the middle.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, city administration update, next item, Josh Decker.
Yeah, let's see. Didn't really talk about yet the budget changes that council did at the budget adoption meeting on the 28th. So they made a few changes that affect parks. One of them is the objective in the budget to develop the Gig Harbor North trails. That objective initially included putting trails in on Gig Harbor Sports Complex Phase 3. So it was exploring the idea of putting in temporary trails in that section. And council removed that. They don't want to put temporary trails into something that's going to be developed into fields. So that part of that objective is gone. There's still $150,000 in there to apply towards trail development. I think that's primarily trails that will be behind the Swiftwater School in that area. So that objective changed a little bit. The other change was they added another $60,000 to the existing $60,000 for the feasibility study for phase 2 of the sports complex. And they want to expand it to include phase 3. So when they do the next feasibility study for the sports complex, it will include phase 2 and phase 3. Kind of with the idea of moving forward on phase 3 a little quicker than maybe they had originally proposed. So those two changes were both approved by council and they're in the final budget. Another change was proposed in the budget to include, I think, $600,000 to actually begin developing phase 2 of the sports complex for design and permitting. And that was not approved by council. So they're going to do the feasibility part still, but they did not earmark any money for developing beyond that. You probably all know that your former member, Councilmember Denson, is moving on from the City Council to the Pierce County Council. So I sent out the announcement, and I think I copied all of you on it, that we have a vacancy on the City Council that we're looking to fill. There's an application on our website that you can send anybody who's interested, or if you're interested, hop on there. The only requirements are that you have to be a city resident for at least 1 year, and you have to be registered to vote within the city. The application form is pretty straightforward. We try to mirror off of the information that people see in the voter's guide. So it's basically 2 sections. We're just asking for background information like education, experience, past, board experience or elected experience, and then a statement on why you're interested in the position. So that's up, that's live now. It'll close on December 31st. And then on January 10th, we will have interviews and find someone to appoint to that vacancy.
Great.
Uh,
Yeah, anything else? Sorry.
Yeah, we do have another member for the Parks Commission that we're gonna appoint. Doug Smith has applied. He was the only applicant that applied the second round we put out for the Parks Commission vacancy. And the mayor's met with him and thinks he'll be a great fit and has proposed appointing him. He's gonna be at a council study session on December 15th, where council will get to meet him, and then I think we'll make the appointment official on January 9th. So he won't be in place for the next Parks Commission meeting, but right after that, he will be.
And so where does that leave us with the work plan? Did they formally adopt that yet, or?
Oh, yeah, that will happen on the 12th of December. So that's in their packet right now for their meeting on Monday. And that's a consent agenda item. I don't think anyone will have any changes or objections, so they'll just approve that.
Okay.
They had their chance to talk about it.
I have a question about the work plan.
Yeah.
Did it include the, like, I guess it's a visioning process or something for the Masonic Hall? What is the status with that?
I am pretty sure that the Masonic Hall is written into the 2023-2024 budget as being part of the visioning process for Crescent Creek Park. I'm pretty sure that's included in there specifically.
Okay.
If it's not, I'm pretty sure it's our intention to include it as part of that master plan.
We've included in the contract with the consultant a structural analysis of it
Mhm.
to kind of get an idea of the shape it's in.
Is there any chance that park commissioners could take a look at that building? Is that the thing that is done, or is it possible?
I don't, as we get into the process with the consultant, we're gonna have to talk about how we're gonna get stakeholder groups to look at some of these things on the site. I don't know if
Yeah.
it'll be like a Parks Commission function, because it's really difficult to have a remote Parks Commission meeting where we can, record it and broadcast it and make sure everything's publicly captured. But as part of the master planning process, we may be able to create stakeholder groups and get people out there to see what's going on there.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
think that would be a good thing.
Yeah, I think Jennifer and Jeff and we're all just kind of getting that process kicked off, so we'll probably figure that out before too long.
So
And,
what does that?
I bring that up because there are folks that, and I'm not having outside meetings or anything, but people comment at the museum. And so, we become the sounding board for the community some of the time. And people are really wondering, like, what the heck is going on with that building? And why did taxpayer dollars get spent on something that no one can use right now? And, we hear that about Wilkinson Barn too. So I don't have the answers there, but I do think it is important for us to address that, or at least have a public message that we can share with people about what's happening with those properties.
Yeah, the Crescent Creek plan will have a better look at that. I did get to tour it with Jeff a few weeks ago. And the Masons, they did some weird stuff with it. So it's not like in a usable format, but the preschool definitely is interested in what happens with that building as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Makes
There-
sense.
There's a lot of red carpet, even like up the walls and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Boarded up windows. It's very interesting, but and there are a lot of groups interested in using that space.
Yeah.
Especially for the arts type stuff.
Mhm.
So is that another leased property that would be included in the alcohol?
Probably, well, we don't, the preschool, no alcohol for them, but, if it were to be leased out to other groups, we would have to look at that in their lease.
Yeah, we'll have to think about that one. I kind of think the Masonic Lodge is probably, with this visioning process, is probably going to get a clean slate and a fresh start, because I know there's been a lot of stuff thrown out there about what it could be used for, and I think we just kind of need to start over with that building and look at everything fresh and see, what it's really suitable for and what it's not. There are all kinds of interest groups that have put forward ideas for it, and some of them will work and some of them would never work, and it's just there's a lot to discuss on that, and that'll be part of the whole process.
Is that one what was the issue with the property itself there? Was it not inside the UGA or not inside the city limits?
Not inside the city,
Right.
Has that been moved forward at all yet?
not yet. But-
We are getting, let's see, Thursday next week is a study session where I think we're getting an update on the UGA analysis. The annexation proposal that council is supposed to consider about which UGA properties are fit for annexation and which are not. I think we've always intended to annex the Masonic Lodge. It's just we kind of put it on hold while we finish the whole analysis of the rest of the UGA. So I think that's been the holdup in getting it in over the past few years.
Has there been an annexation study or annexation since we've acquired that property?
Yeah, the annexation study is complete. It just needs to be presented to council, and I'm not sure if council is good with it the way it's been presented in the past, or if they have some changes they want to make to it, but I think it's largely complete, and it should be in the packet that goes out on Friday. So yeah, if you're interested in that, just definitely check on the website by the end of the day on Friday, and I think it should be in there.
So this will be the first annexation since that property's been acquired then though, or how come it, I guess, how come it hasn't been adopted into the city limits?
The only annexations I think that we've had since then are annexations that have been done by the request of property owners. And it's been really piecemeal, just a couple of parcels or homes here and there that want to get in as part of, for whatever reason, want to be included in city limits. I don't know how many of those we've had, maybe one or two since we acquired the Masonic Lodge, but it hasn't been very many.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like it's been a while that we've talked about that, but it never happened. I was like, what's the hold up?
It's on the city council's strategic plan to annex all these park properties that aren't in the city, including the lighthouse too.
Would that be the only parcel on that side of the harbor that's,
Yep,
huh,
Okay.
that whole side of almost all of that whole side of the harbor was taken out of the UGA a couple of years ago.
I think that was. How far away is the boat launch from city property? Is that like, I mean, because Pierce County doesn't have a lot out here, does it? I mean, it's that and the pretty spit pretty much, right?
Yeah, it's actually pretty,
Yeah, it's pretty far.
it's pretty far from city limits. I mean, city limits don't really go on the other side of, what is that, Bernhardt's there?
Right.
Hardly at all.
I think there's like 3 houses there on the water that are part of the city, and then the rest of it is
And
all
I think-
county.
I think that was all part that was taken out of the UGA. I can pull it up here real quick and I'll show you. Just
I
give
was
me a
gonna
second.
try that too.
Now, is that favorable to have Pierce County continue keeping that up then instead of seeing if Gig Harbor wants to acquire that?
So when you incorporate those, there's costs that go along with it. Police service, all the services, city services that need to be provided, and it's usually just a strictly residential area. To be quite honest with you, it doesn't pencil. It's a loser from a cost standpoint. So, but that's not always the reason or the criteria. Those aren't the sole criteria that are used for that decision making. So you just need to be thoughtful about that.
I see,
From a city perspective.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of nice, like in our, but we don't have to pay for anything to keep it up.
So for example, if the city were to incorporate it, then water and sewer, it's a huge cost to get it out there, all that's on septic. And it's just a huge ball of wax, or a rat's nest or what have you.
All the money.
Yep,
Yeah.
it becomes complicated.
So
But
that
the
little
lighthouse-
hook, on the east side, north of the harbor itself is where, yeah, the lodge is, but yeah.
Yeah, let me see if I can zoom in a little better here. Yeah, so here's the Masonic Lodge. Can you see my cursor? I don't know if my cursor shows up well enough.
Yeah.
So what's highlighted in lavender, that's UGA.
Yes,
Okay, so that's. You're familiar with what that is.
Yeah, I think
That's,
that's,
yeah, those are the areas that we anticipate at some point in the future. incorporating into the city.
And that northern, that long skinny one on the north of there is also officially part of the park. But
That's city owned as well.
Yeah.
isn't it?
it doesn't have anything on it except the storage shed.
I think it was 2, maybe 3 years ago that council reached out to Pierce County and requested that I think it was basically all of this area. The whole peninsula south of that, UGA section was in the UGA. And, city council requested that the county remove it from the UGA, and they did.
All right. Well, I look forward to hopefully getting that in the city limits. Um, Any idea when that annexation may or may not happen? Is that like this year? You said it's in the budget, right?
It's in the strategic plan. I don't know if it's
Oh,
budgeted. There's probably not an expense really involved with it. I don't know when the timing is planned for that.
yeah. All right, anything else, Josh? Thank you.
I think that covers everything I had.
Commissioner reports and comments. Does anybody else have any comments or anything we go to the order?
I do have a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a couple thoughts. One is, I don't know how much consideration, if any, has been given to the preservation of the wood carvings that we're doing at like Grandview Park. Just noticed some of them. I don't know that there's some kind of an application that can be placed on them to just help ensure that they stick around for a long period of time, or whether we're doing anything like that or have any plans to. Just a thought there. And then the other observation I guess I wanted to point out that I made was, so this year, the chum return on Donkey Creek, I didn't see a single fish, nor any carcasses down there. And so this kind of speaks to that, my thinking around wanting to try to reinvigorate the hatchery that was there, that I think is now kind of defunct or no longer being operated by the fishermen. And so I just wanted to make the comment that I observed that the run, I'd be curious to know if any of the other commissioners saw any fish down there, or Stephanie, if you have. The run was just non-existent. And also I made some observations on Crescent Creek, and I didn't see any chum there this year either. So just, yeah, I would just encourage maybe continuing conversation or thinking about bringing back that hatchery operation there, and maybe how the city can help partner in that or be a catalyst in that.
So that's run by the fishermen, right?
Yeah, it used to be.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen it in operation, and I don't know whether, that's.
Right,
that
well,
plays
the
into-
the update on the little hatchery is that there was a virus on the salmon fry, so they had to put it on hiatus for 3 or 4 years to work that out. Lindsay at Harbor Wild Watch has a lot more information about that, and they did include some of that on the tours along the creek during Chum Fest. I think on the last tour of the last day, they saw 2 chum in the creek. So that's a very low run. But it's possible that part of the reason why the chum run is so low is because that hatchery has been, they had to disable it because of this virus that was circulating amongst the fry. So hopefully it'll get reinvigorated. And I know Minter had an amazing run this year. So, hopefully if we can bring that back, then that will be a positive thing.
Thank you.
Is that where they were sourcing? Do you know if that's where they're sourcing theirs from?
I honestly don't know. There's a lot of details about that project that I don't have, that I don't know, or that I don't have. So I think it would be worthwhile to have, have Harbor Wild Watch and the Fisherman's Club talk to the Parks Commission about that, because we do field questions about it and obviously are interested in salmon recovery. So partnering with them would be a really good thing.
Maybe if they are able to present us with one of those tiles before the placement, the pavers. maybe they didn't have an opportunity to kind of have that conversation as well.
Yeah.
If they want to join us for a meeting. To speak to the snags though, I think that was part of the concept was that they wanted to naturally deteriorate.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was part of the thought process behind it is the natural.
Yeah,
deterioration.
that's how the Arts Commission designed that program to work, so. Which isn't to say we couldn't revisit that and see if maybe they want to try to preserve those longer, but. I can bring that up with them when we meet next time.
I think one of the concerns was they didn't want to put any finish on there that might harm creatures that live on them, so.
Okay, that's all I got. Anybody else?
Apologize for being absent last week. I was planning a trip before I was appointed as commissioner and I could not give it up.
Totally understandable. It's all right. Although I think we should take higher priority, but.
Unless we were going into Kauai, so.
Totally understandable. Did you have fun?
Hmm?
Did you have
I
fun?
had fun, got in very late last night.
Oh, did you? Oh, nice. Nice. Let's see. Anything else? Happy to be back in person. Hopefully we'll have
Absolutely, yes.
the rest of us. I mean, just the conversation you guys are having beforehand was nice to, it's not something I think we get on Zoom, so it's nice to have
This
that.
is very good, yeah.
Yeah, happy to have that and happy to have Jen part of the city. And so hopefully we'll do some great things together. So
Yeah.
looking forward to moving forward with a bunch of these projects that get set forth. So.
Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah, yeah, you're gonna have a handful. Quite the list. Yeah, on that note, is there a motion to adjourn? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
All right, and a second. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Get
All
better
right.
soon,
Bye.
Stephanie.
Yeah, get better.
Yeah.
That sounds